It was on August 31, 1939, at the Newport News shipyards in Virginia, that First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt christened and launched a brand new vessel in front of 30,000 people that would go on to have a long and exciting career that would span over 30 years. The SS America would become one of the most beloved and iconic ships in history, though its ultimate fate would be one of the most unusual for any vessel of such size and historical significance. Ordered by the United States Maritime Commission in 1937 and designed by Gibbs and Cox as the new flagship for the United States lines. The 26,454-ton SS America was to be the largest and fastest luxury passenger liner yet built in the United States. She had an overall length of 723 feet, a width of 93 feet and had a top speed of 22 knots. She had 11 decks and could carry 1,202 passengers and 643 crew members. Her design consisted of a sleek hull with spacious decks and a streamlined superstructure topped with two sampan funnels. The SS America began her career on August 10, 1940, with her maiden voyage from New York to the West Indies. With war engulfing the whole of Europe, the new liner couldn't sail across the Atlantic and was confined to sail in safe and neutral waters along the American coasts. She was a grand lady all dressed up with nowhere to go. But in early 1941, she would be called up to serve her namesake country and pressed into military service. She was renamed USS West Point and could now carry over 9,000 people for her new role as a large troop transport serving with the United States Navy. Her wartime exploits included evacuating civilians and military personnel from bombed Singapore, evading German U-boats off Brazil, delivering Allied troops to various parts of the world, and returning them home safely. She would receive many notable distinctions for her heroic actions during the conflict. Having done her duty, she was decommissioned by the Navy and returned to her birthplace for a complete and extensive restoration. It would take several months of painstaking work to bring her back to her original splendor. Finally, in November 1946, the newly restored SS America began her first Atlantic crossing as the Queen of the American Merchant Marine. She would prove herself to be a popular favorite with most passengers. One of the factors for her popularity were her modest and comfortable interiors, which were some of the first at sea to be designed by women. For the next 18 years, the America had made over 280 crossings and transported almost 500,000 passengers. But by the early 1960s, with the rise of global air travel, the ship began to lose revenue and was eventually sold to the Greek shipping company Chandris Lines in 1964. She was to be given a new lease of life as the largest one-class liner on the Europe-Australia service. Her new name for this role was SS Australis. A major conversion saw her passenger capacity increase to an impressive 2,258 and all for tourist class. The newly rebuilt Australis, with her glistening white hull and blue funnels, commenced migrant service for Chandris in August 1965. Despite competition from newer ships, she remained dearly popular with passengers, probably because of her glorious American heritage. The vessel was often beyond full to capacity, with migrants wanting to start a new life down under, and their journey would see them traveling all over the world. In 1968, her hull was repainted light gray and her aft mast was removed. As the years went by, the hard-working ship began to show its age. With rising fuel costs and lack of proper maintenance, it was decided that the Australis was to be put up for sale. She was briefly laid up at Timaru, New Zealand, after completing her final migrant voyage. She was eventually sold to an American consortium called Venture Cruise Lines, who had optimistic plans to use the ship for a series of short cruises from New York to nowhere. Her name was changed to SS America once again in a bid to capitalize on her illustrious past. However, the aging liner had been badly refurbished by her new owners, and what followed were a series of scandalous voyages that were highly publicized in the press as the cruises from hell. The America was arrested for unpaid debts and her owners were filed for bankruptcy. She was eventually put up for auction and was sold back to Chundras, her previous owners. They decided to give the once gorgeous vessel one last hurrah with a refit that saw the removal of her forward funnel and a new name. She was now called the Italis. She first served as a hotel in Liberia before embarking on a series of 2-week cruises in the eastern Mediterranean. But Chundras soon realized that the ship was too old to make a healthy profit and decided to have the decrepit vessel laid up in Elefsina Bay, near the port of Piraeus. She would never sail again. What followed was a long period of idleness and a severe case of neglect. A series of plans were purposed for a future use, but she remained nothing more than a shadow of her former self. It wasn't until October 1992 when the neglected vessel was sold for what was to be the final time. A company from Thailand had plans to convert and restore the ship into a 5-star floating hotel. Her name was finally changed to the American Star and repairs were made at a nearby shipyard to prepare the ship for the long tow out to Asia. A bright future was ahead for the historic liner. But during the perilous voyage in January 1994, the American Star broke free several times during a violent winter storm off the Canary Islands and ran aground off the west coast of Fuerteventura. The old ship had reached her final destination. Within a few hours, the powerful Atlantic waves had split the battered ship in half. The former SS America, the once proud flagship of the United States lines, had been lost to the waves. Locals soon began looting the wrecked liner and what remained would slowly collapse until nothing was left. It has been 83 years since the glorious SS America was launched. She has since been all over the world and carried countless people to start their new lives in another country. But what was once the pride of American shipbuilding has now been reduced to a pile of sunken wreckage on the seafloor, slowly disappearing as the years go by. What will remain of the ship and its former occupants are faint and distant images of a bygone era that will continue to fascinate those who see the beauty of a great ship.